When you have someone new that bursts on the scene that has a list of attributes, either stylistically or physically, their athleticism, that seems unbeatable, they give off an aura of invincibility. And this is something that happened with fighters like Mike Tyson comes to mind, right? When he was in his prime, he had mastered this peekaboo style of slipping and bobbing and weaving in and covering distance well and being very explosive, but also very powerful, very fast. And he, of course, had good cardio despite not very not needing to use it very much, right? Of course, once you get a lot of notoriety because you're doing well, because you're beating all these guys, you aggregate a lot of fight footage and training footage, especially in the days of Instagram where people are uploading this to things like YouTube or Instagram or whatever, right? So all these eyes get on you that are learning how to beat you, right? There's guys that their entire career they're focusing on beating one guy who's the champ at the current moment, right? You hear this story happen all the time now. In the case of Mike Tyson, people realized, okay, we need to uppercut him when he's coming in. We need to jab at distance and keep him in the clinch because despite being overall aggressive, he was actually very passive and weak in the clinch. With Dominick Cruz, his style had been seen in boxing by a few guys like Wyllie, for example, who did a lot of this low-line head movement, right? Bending at the hips instead of at the knees, just very lightly. And he was also really good at these angle changes, the unpredictability, and one of the main attributes was being able to both slip to the inside and the outside and move freely with the torso and the lower body, right? Both being able to slip to the angle that you're walking in or moving in and the opposite one, which is a very hard thing to do, right? Because you're separating the brain's connection to the torso and the lower body, which is very difficult to do. There's a reason why it's not seen in MMA very often. Of course, Dominic did this very well, but he never really refined it more than he did when he was the champion. And now, because he's been around for so long, like the blueprints have been laid to how to beat him, right? And of course, I've got the list of cons and pros on the side of the screen. You can all see them. But of course, one of these all played into this fight, right? Okay, here it is, right? You see that knockout. It happens very quickly, so I'm going to put it in 0.25 speed. All these attributes conglomerated to form like a perfect storm of which is why he lost, right? Let's just watch it one more time in 0.25 speed, and then I'll go over some things, right? Because be easy to think like, oh yeah, Chito threw a good kick and congratulations, whatever. He was losing the fight beforehand. It's a lucky kick. You hear this kind of bullshit a lot, but no, he used a perfect game plan, right? One of the mistakes Dom made, just right off the bat, is he walks himself back into the cage, right? You see he's going back here, right? And he might just be very tired, right? And not be thinking properly or not be focusing on as many things as he could if he was fresh. But that's one of the problems with his style is there's a lot of energy expenditure, right? Even though he has good cardio, right? So instead of walking himself back into the cage, he should have exited out this way, which would have been a little harder because Marlon is here to cut him off, but he has like coming forward, coming this way, and coming laterally this way, right? But he's in kind of one of the worst places because not only is he up against the cage if he goes back, he's up against one of the 8 parts of the octagon where the geometry is broken, the angle changes, which is one of the worst places to be for his style because he commits himself very much with this excessive low-line head movement, right? What I mean by committing is if you're using regular head movement, right, which is just like here, right? Say I slip to one side. If a punch came at me in this follow-up, right, I could slip again. I could even slip 3 times. But with him, when he's already all the way here, there's no way for him to reverse the position without changing the angle that he's at, right? He can't go again. So he loses in like a rock, paper, scissors context. He loses rock or paper or scissors. He loses one of these places, right? So it's now easier for his opponent to know what to do. Now, when he's against a wall, that's even more so, right? When he's against a corner, because he's completely cut off. And we're going to see that right here, right? When he's here, when he's thrown this jab, the way he throws this jab, it's not like forward like this. It's off to the side, right? If you're doing like a pec fly, it's off to this side. Now, the cage is like behind and to his right, right? So think of it that way, right? But of course, behind him directly is where this angle change of the cages, right? But of course, back this way, which would be like me going back this way, walking back that way, is where the cage is. So he can't go that way. He can't come around this way because Chito is there. So he just doesn't have anywhere else to go except here. But that's where Chito's round kick is going to come up from. So he's kind of screwed in this way. Of course, the only direction that he can slip from after he throws the shot and he's expecting follow-up is down. So not only is he susceptible to a punch, but he's actually slipping into the punch, which maximizes the force, right? I've written this down in the negatives, right? Because he's punching himself into the kick, right? So of course, the force is maximized, which is going to help lead him into a knockout. So once Dom has thrown this jab, what he could have done to keep himself defensively responsible is step forward and doubled up on it, right? Step forward and throw on a right, because right now he's not in range to throw this right. If you look, like, it would have been maybe around here, and obviously there's all this distance to overcome, so he wouldn't have been able to hit that. That would have helped negate the fact that he can't go this way, he can't go this way, and his only real direction is this, and this directionality leads him into this kick. So that could have helped. Alternatively, this is more dangerous, but if it was just a reflexive movement, it might have helped, is he could have blent his low line head movement, right, where he comes down real low, into a takedown. Because this is one of the things that actually helps with Dom, is that when he goes low to do a takedown, or to just defend against with a slip, they're blent, right? They look the same, so he would get closer to doing the takedown, but it would just look like a slip. So you can't bank on either one, right? And in that sense, he would have come down closer this way, in which case this kick wouldn't have been able to hit him. But he would have been susceptible to a knee, because the knee would have been right up the center line, which is similar to what happened with Ben Askren and Masvidal in their 4-second fight, right? Because of course he went straight down, and it was very telegraphed, and Masvidal knew he was going to do it, and of course he got clipped, right? Those would have been much better options than anything he really has available at this point. He possibly could have thrown a kick, right, with his rear kick, or if he was if balanced enough, lifted this leg up and then thrown a push kick, right, which is kind of what he tries to do, the similar concept with this jab, sorry, not the jab, but what comes next when he's down here. He's trying to post a little bit with this arm to push Chito off balance, but he's just too slow with it and he's not in range. So it ends up just being a liability, because then he's not able to put this shoulder close enough to his jaw to defend against it. And of course, with his arm over here, he's got his head exposed here, because if he were to lift that arm up more, then he'd have all these ribs exposed. So he's going to have to take a shot there. Now, one thing I want to illustrate is that Chito catches him basically at the very edge, the very end of his range of motion of his leg. Now, we think of reach, of course, in a very problematic way. We see reach as wingspan. Now, if you've got either a wide torso, for example, then your wingspan might be longer than your actual reach, effective ability to strike is, right? And the reverse is true too with narrow torsos. If you've got long fingers, it's going to be biased. If you've got short fingers, it's going to be biased. If you've got tight pecs, you won't be able to extend fully. It's going to be a shorter measurement. But even more egregious than this is they don't measure the length of your kick, of your leg from the hip or so, right? It should be fist to chest, but it should also be the length of your legs, because we're in a sport that uses kicks, right? It's very silly that we don't have these metrics on the pre-fight analytics, right? I don't know why this is the case. But just one more thing that I wanted to go into, because I think it's important to note for all these people that are saying, oh, Chito got lucky, blah, blah, blah. You're always going to have this, right? Even before this, but at this point when Dom has only moved very slightly, there's no way Chito could have reacted to this. He's already chambered the kick, and he's already trying to extend this arm to get maximum torque to to lift his hips up to get maximum torque on the kick. So he clearly set this move up, right? He knows that this is coming, or he's aware that this is open, probably because he knows that Dom can't go this way, he can't go back, he can't go back this way, and he's gonna have to bend down this way forward, or at least move towards this angle. So he had multiple areas that he could have got the kick with, and because Dom's extended, right, he's missing one place where he could block, and because this arm is low, he's either going to get hit in the ribs if he lifts it up to protect his head, or he's going to get hit in the head if he the opposite, right? And then we see what happens. Now, like I said, we think about wingspan, we think about reach. You know, Chito has very long legs. Even though he's 5'8", same height as Dom, and his reach is only written as 2.5 inches longer. You know, Dom might have gotten away with this movement with a shorter guy, and a lot of the guys he fought when he was coming up in his rise were shorter guys. You see, like, he catches him kind of right on the end of his fully extended kick, which is where like the most power is, right? But Chito had the attribute to beat him. He had like what Lennox Lewis had to Tyson, which was an 84-inch reach that was able to jab and throw these kind of arm uppercuts that were coming in, and then tie him up in his weak clinch, right? So eventually some guy is going to come around. He's going to have those attributes and the knowledge of what to do to beat you. He's going to beat him, right? And of course, Dom was probably winning the fight, I mean, almost certainly. But the moments that Chito was doing well were when he was using long-range straight punches, kicks to the body and to the legs, which is exactly what you would do if you were trying to come up with an optimal game plan to beat a guy like Dominick Cruz, which with the attributes that Chito had, right? And that was all she wrote.